Hello. Today, let's talk about the noodles murder. This heinous crime was committed at Etesho Hotel and Suites in Ojodu Bega in Lagos State, Nigeria. A 56-year-old woman known and called Mrs. Abimbola Olushola Olushoga and the manager of the hotel, a 39-year-old Tunji Omekunle, were murdered in cold blood in the hotel. Mrs. Olushoga resided in London with her family before going back to her home country, Nigeria, where she met her untimely death. Nothing was known or said about her husband, but I think she was once married because she was a mother of 4. A couple of years earlier, Mrs. Olushoga began sending money back home for a hotel business to be established. After the hotel was built, she decided to go back home and oversee the business herself. On the 25th of January 2019, the mother of 4 was in her room in her residence in the hotel sleeping when one of the hotel staff, named as Mr. Ehijoke Vincent, who was at that time a supervisor. This Mr. Ehijoke had already planned with 4 individuals, 2 of them Etesho hotel workers, the other 2 were not workers in the hotel. They all broke into her room, bound her hands and feet, beat her up, and unalive her. But before going to her room, they had earlier gone to Mr. Tunde Omekunle's room. They went there asking for Mr. Tunde to give them keys, which he told them he did not have no keys to the ladies' room, to the woman's room. And meanwhile, before going to Mr. Tunde's room, they had earlier gone to the staff, the few staff that were on desk on that day. He was a worker, so he was familiar with the people there. So they kind of were friendly with all of them, and then he decided, oh, let them make noodles. He got some noodles, and so he brought the noodles, and they made the noodles for them to eat. He then laced the noodles with sleeping substance without the workers' knowledge, the few workers that were there that early morning of that day. And they all ate. After eating, everybody fell asleep. And then he himself and his criminal group went to work. So when they went to the Mr. Tunji Omekunle's room to ask for key, he had no key. He told them he had no key. And they strangled him to death. It was after doing this to Mr. Tunji that they went to Mrs. Olushoga's room, where they also unalived her. Where they also unalived her, and then they went ahead to collect her valuables. They got some money, they got some gold, they got a lot of things from the hotel, from the Mrs. Olushoga's room. After collecting money and valuables from Mrs. Olushoga's room and was about to leave, they realized that it would be impossible to escape with the stolen items without security at the gate searching and asking questions. So they decided on a route of escape. So they jumped through the fence and were able to escape. In the morning, the woman's 12-year-old, when I say the woman, I mean the owner of the hotel, Mrs. Olushoga's 12-year-old son, who was already finished getting ready to go to school, went to her mother's room to bid her goodbye and see you later when I come back. When the son got there, he realized that the mother was not breathing and he was laying still. The child started crying and screaming and then asked for help. When the workers who were sleeping, remember they were dosed with a sleeping substance. By this time, the substance had, the effect of the substance had worn off, and they were awake and they continued their job. They didn't suspect anything. So when they heard the boy screaming, they all ran to the room. When they got there, they realized what had happened. And then they also realized that Mr. Tunji Omekunle was not there. So they were like, what is going on? Where is Mr. Omekunle? Why is he not here with all these chaos and noise and the crying and the screaming? So someone ran to his room to alert him of what had happened. That was when they realized that Mr. Tunde Omekunle, the manager, has also been murdered. So they called in the police, the Nigerian police, to start investigation. During investigation, Mrs. Olushoga's daughter said that those workers were no longer with the hotel. She was the one that told the Nigerian police that the workers, two of those assumed workers, had been fired previously due to fraudulent acts in the hotel. Some sources also said that they actually tried to destroy the CCTV camera so they will not be caught during the act. But thankfully, experts were able to get footages from the CCTV that captured them in the hotel. So the Nigerian police went to work and started looking for them, because at this point they were all gone. They all fled. They went to hiding. But Mr. Ehijioke Vincent, who was the fired supervisor, remember the daughter, Melissa, the woman's daughter, Mrs. Olushoge's daughter, Melissa, had said during investigation that they were fired, that they had been fired. So the Nigerian police traced his phone, and Mr. Ehijioke was apprehended in the city of Port Harcourt, Rivers State in Nigeria. But the rest of the crew were gone. When he was apprehended, he denied it, but because they showed him some of the footages, he admitted to the crime. He confessed to the crime. He said the reason for doing it was because Mrs. Olushoga was stingy and wasn't giving. She wasn't good at, compensating the workers. And to crown it all, she fired he was fired for no cause. So the case was charged to court. But as of today that I'm making this video, nothing has really been done. Though Mr. Ehijioke Vincent was found guilty, and the judge sentenced him to death by hanging. Nothing really has been heard about the case up till this day, and the remaining 3 that fled has not been apprehended. It seems that it just vanished from the surface of the earth. The lesson of today's video, in my opinion, is that as individuals, we need to be careful. We need to be very careful, be alert at every point in time. If you're a business owner, know who you hire. Know how you relate with them, because people are mean and wicked. Be careful how you deal with your workers. Be careful how you relate with your workers. Be alert at all the time, at all times. And also, if you reside in Nigeria, be prayerful, because a lot of crime and a lot of evil is going on in the land. I don't know what you think about today's video, but don't forget to leave your opinion in the comment section. Subscribe to this channel. Help me to grow. I just started this channel, and like the video as well. So long.